That is why when Smolensk happened, I had not even a second of hesitation in assessing that it must have been hand of Kremlin and Putin itself. Let me start with introducing the place we meet today. It is safety and so-called safety and health building, safety and health chamber of the former shipyard of Gdańsk, bearing the name of Vladimir Lenin. So quite famous, employing 14,000 of workers. So it was quite a big force and big community to protest against vicious policies of communists in Poland. Later President Lech Kaczynski, victim of Smolensk catastrophe, who perished in this catastrophe, was a very important person for this community. He was probably one of very rare few educated lawyers advising workers how to behave, how to act, how to preserve their freedom, how to deal successfully in legal terms, how to defend against violations of communist rules and rulers. It was also a very important place. Nearby there is Solidarity Movement headquarters, building where both Lech Kaczynski, as member of the ruling group of this movement, later after changes, used to work, and myself engaged in foreign affairs of Solidarność, both under communist rule in so-called free period, short period of free activity of Solidarność in 1980-81, later clandestinely, and then after changes. And during this time, we used to cooperate with Lech Kaczynski. We met quite frequently, and then I learned his skills, abilities, his intellectual power, and his deep knowledge of law and state affairs. That is why after changes, and in particular after gaining power in Poland, being elected to the office of president, that happened in 2005, he was so well qualified to take this office. He had extensive experience in many institutions already, and he had very clear views of Poland's role and potential positive influence, including ability and knowledge how to deal with Russia. He was he descended from the family of long-standing experience in fighting for Poland's independence. he was a person supporting very much cooperation among nations, in particular nations in the region. I think that during his activity, he was particularly dedicated also to supporting free movements within Russia. For example, memorial. He decorated memorial people for a variety of his achievements. And I still remember how much they felt abandoned after his death in Smolensk catastrophe. During his presidency, I used to be foreign minister in government of consecutive law and justice governments, fully understanding and sharing actually his views. He very quickly noted Kremlin's, and under Putin, Kremlin's influence on various groups of Western elites, and I would say rather a naive Western perception of Kremlin under Putin's ability to modernize, to transform to democratic state and enabling the West to successfully cooperate, to make deals basing on values and rules that are well known to all of us. And we must understand that Putin engaged in these games coldly, clearly, willing to mislead Western elites. That is why the voice of Poland at that time used to be very sober and also quite frequently opposing to deep engagement. For example, the will of the EU to engage in cooperation with Russia, Putin's Russia, in 4 various areas, further increasing dependence on supplies of Russian hydrocarbons, while we already, and in particular President Kaczynski, we were already aware that Putin and Kremlin under Putin, Muscovite authorities decided to use energy, raw materials, energy in particular, hydrocarbons, as a tool in Russian foreign policy, including dependence. The manifestation of this, I would say most visible manifestation of this aim of Russia was during Putin visits to Westerplatte, to Poland and Westerplatte, to commemorate the anniversary of outbreak of the Second World War, where in his speech Putin presented Europe, because European leaders like Angela Merkel, Donald Tusk in office as Poland's Prime Minister at that time, other leaders present also from Central and Eastern Europe, and Putin offered the possibility to have privileged relationship with his or Russia ruled by himself, on preferential ways and with preferential treatments, but on further dependence, actually, on Kremlin. In very clear and very brave speech, President Kaczynski refused this offer, speaking about neo-imperial attempts to introduce spheres of influence by Kremlin. I think that this speech was very important, adding to negative assessment of Lech Kaczynski's presidency, Putin's negative assessment, his personal attitude, actually personal hatred. It was combined with his earlier assessment of Lech Kaczynski in intervening in Tbilisi after Russian aggression on Georgia. Lech Kaczynski was very clear and very outspoken about Russia's aggressive posture. It was for the first time Russia decided to play so openly and boldly, or Putin decided to play so openly vis-à-vis independent, sovereign country outside of Russian territory. It was very clear and visible. Many people also in the West used to think that both the West and Georgia were too far in dreaming about transatlantic perspectives for Georgia. Same about Ukraine, because during Bucharest summit, both President Kaczynski and myself, we participated in this, strongly pushing for Georgia's and Ukraine's perspectives for NATO, actually for membership action plan for both countries. In my opinion and President's opinion, lack of decisive moves actually emboldened Russia. It is like this. Putin feels strong seeing Western weakness or hesitating in pursuing rights of independent states. That happened with Georgia and Ukraine. President Kaczynski's views were absolutely clear that Russia has no veto power vis-à-vis NATO decisions. Russia was external, and independent states have, and independent nations, free nations, have a right to choose, freely choose. That is according to international law, and that is publicly acknowledged by all free democracies all over the world. So Georgia and Ukraine had a right to choose. Nowadays, people frightened sometimes by Russia's aggressive posture and Putin's boldness, think or accept his concept of spheres of influence, while even now it is more than obvious that international law clearly states the right of free nations having their sovereign states to choose their alliances and their direction of their foreign and security policy. It was like this with Georgia, it was like this with Ukraine, and President Kaczynski, myself, with full power and whole knowledge, we used to support this. And he was so successful in pursuing this aim. He was so skilled in argumentation, actually real leader of whole region, presenting views of security and positive development of the region. Paradoxically, this vision of freedom and democracy, legacy of Solidarność, of all aspects of Solidarność, or full experience of Solidarność, was also extremely beneficial, the most beneficial concept and view also for Russian people. I know there are few Russians who really support this idea, even not probably stating it clearly. So I would say that it was very clear, concise line of activity and public work of President Kaczynski, very effective, very skillful, actually questioning overwhelming directions of even policies of many world democracies vis-à-vis Russia, very sober and clear, and actually foreseeing further atrocities. That is why when Smolensk happened, I had not even a second of hesitation in assessing that it must have been hand of Kremlin and Putin himself in this. My thoughts were later confirmed by numerous scientific concept of this, because we did not have proper evidence in Poland, with wreckage still on Russian territory, and unfortunately the power to investigate actually passed by then authorities of Poland to Russians, believing in Russian honesty in assessment. So I would say, with many mistakes, it is so painful to a person like myself to see so tight silence, a curtain of silence over Smolensk in free world, in collective West. Somehow we are already, after Ukraine, able to admit all atrocities, and we know that Putin and Kremlin that is capable of introducing the worst policies ever, that he is capable of genocide. After Bucha in Irpin, after all atrocities in Crimea, we already can imagine every possible atrocities. We are aware of murdering Navalny, Nemtsov. We admit what happened to many brave people like Anna Politkovskaya and many others. We are aware of Salisbury, of Litvinenko, of all vicious policies, yet Russian propaganda triggered immediately, just a quarter of an hour after Smolensk catastrophe, assessing the mistake, fatal mistake of Polish pilots carrying the elite, because it was not only President Lech Kaczynski, his spouse Maria Kaczynska, the last president of Poland in exile who handed over Polish insignia to independently elected presidents of Poland after changes. And also very high-ranking civic officials of the state, including deputy speakers of the parliament, important MPs, commanders of all sorts of armed forces, clergy, military clergy of all religious denominations, Solidarność legions, heroes like Anna Walentynovich. He was one of the leaders of changes in Poland. Actually, to defend her, the strikes in Lenin shipyard erupted at that time. So this kind of catastrophe, taking into account very concise and clear policies and very effectively introduced policies, was actually received in total silence, in acceptance of Russian disinformation propaganda, enormous money, enormous efforts by Russian Federation were introduced all over the world. I monitored how much it resonated within social media all over the world, how frequently magnified in every possible channel. So I'm absolutely clear about this. I hope in my lifetime, I'll see acknowledging also this crime, not only as pure plain accident, innocent, although tragic catastrophe, but really a crime perpetrated by vicious regime. I'm hopeful.